Cosmic Family, it's good to be here with you today. I'm actually breastfeeding my daughter right now, and I wanted to make this video. It's not the video I wanted to come back to YouTube with, but it's important to talk about it. For me, it's personal. As some of you know, I lived in Ukraine in 2019, 2020 for a few months, and I was actually planning to move back there just in a couple months. And so seeing what's happening there, it's not only heartbreaking just from, the pain of watching any place, and there are plenty of places in the world right now where there's some horrible conflicts going on, but also from a personal perspective, knowing Ukraine and knowing a lot of people there, and having lived in Kiev, and what a wonderful and amazing city it is. And it's really, really upsetting. At the same time, it's not very surprising because of what's happening and the tyranny that's being exposed, that we're seeing all over the world. And Ukraine and places like Yemen and Palestine, all these places, they are like sacrificial grounds, unfortunately, for these power structures. And they're there to but they are places where it's not just conflicts for the sake of resolving certain geopolitical issues, but they are places that serve as sacrificial grounds in order to feed this kind of energy, all right, that we've talked about a lot on this channel. And one thing I want to bring up is that it's not really popular to talk about certain things, okay? And I'm not going to go into the details of it, but what I'm going to say is that I want you guys to really not get caught up in the wave of the media. The media is, the Western media only paints things in a certain way because it is funded by and it's supporting a certain viewpoint of the world. And I think it's important to understand that there's layers upon layers to this situation that are not being talked about. And it's really upsetting because at the end, who suffers are regular people, okay? That's what you're seeing in different parts of the world, including Ukraine. It's the regular people that are getting caught in it. And it's actually even the people who do offer a lot of the help is regular people. Here where I am right now in Prague, we're all gearing up to donate as much as we can to welcome people into our homes, because we're expecting an influx of refugees. And it's truly, truly unfortunate, but if there is in any way that you can not just give to the people in need, but to also see the truth, okay? Because so many people, and I noticed this in the West, and this is something that I saw before in the US, and that's why I left, where things were happening in Iraq and Afghanistan, and people just say, well, it doesn't concern me because, there's terrorism and this and that happening. And the thing is that that's the way it's portrayed in the media. That's what the power structures want you to know, but they're not really telling you exactly why they're initiating these wars, okay? And so I think it's important to keep a perspective on that, because so much of what the last couple of years have been about is awakening regular people to the truth, right? Everyday people to the truth. Awakening us to what is really happening, to the tyranny, to the control, to these agendas, okay? And it's not going to end, okay? It's not going to end until we really are not blinded by the way the versions of the stories that we're told. And because whatever stories were told from when I talk about the media, at the end of the day, the media is serving certain power structures, okay? And so they do a really good job at it. They do a good job at setting up stories in a certain way that really pull pull at our heartstrings. So what I want to say to you is that be aware of the way the story is set up, and also become aware of how the West is sort of participating, and it's beneficial for them to have this conflict. It's not popular to say, and I'm not just saying this conflict, but other conflicts around the world, and how they are portrayed as necessary, okay, as these necessary things to happen. And there's always a villain, and the villain is always outside of this world that you and I come from, aka the West. The villain is always outside of this place, and nobody really wants to take responsibility. Now there are people who are saying the truth, and there's like small social media channels that I noticed. I'm like, oh, they get what's happening, but again, this is not what most people are watching. Most people are watching the general media, and it's really continuing this brainwashing that lowers consciousness, that continues this human and nature sacrificial game that only benefits a select few. And so what can you do in this process? Well, I'm not going to make a separate video on this, but we are in a cycle, in a powerful sun cycle, and it's going to peak between 2024 and 2026. So there is more to come. Yeah, so be prepared. But also it is a time of ascension. It is a time of seeing much more of the truth. This is what a lot of these conflicts around the world are exposing to us, and it's up to us to take on that responsibility to say, you know what, I'm going to dig deeper. I'm going to go deeper. I get on the surface, this is how things are portrayed, but I want to see the truth. I want to dig deeper. It's important because as I'm breastfeeding my daughter here, I have a responsibility to share with her my version of the world. She's going to create her version of the world that is the most truthful and clear, all right? And she's going to see an even clearer version of the world, because each generation is bringing with it, they're bringing with it more celestial wisdom, more cosmic wisdom. But we are the sort of the guides right now, the physical guides at least, okay? And we have our non-physical guides, and they're always there. And it's important that we learn to listen to the right sources, okay? And there's only one source in terms of, in the spiritual sense, all right? In the physical sense, there's lots of sources, right? There's the sources where we get water from. There's sources where we get our food from. Emotional connection from. But there is one source, the greater source, this universal source, and it is constantly offering us the opportunity to see the light, to see the truth. And that's what I wanted to do with this video, to invite you. And I know so many of you watching this video probably already see beyond what the media shows, but it's important to do that, because otherwise, then we participate in this zombie-like matrix, okay? And we sort of feed the system. But when we begin to see the truth, we unplug from it, okay? And we have to understand that war is beneficial to a lot of people. And it's unfortunate. But as more people are sacrificed, the more beneficial it becomes to a small group of people. And we have to see and understand that and say, you know what, I don't want to participate in that. And the way that we do that, well, there's different ways that we do that. It's not just through our vote, but it's with our thoughts and our actions and the ideas that we propagate in our day-to-day life. So I want to thank you, and I look forward to sharing more content with you. Watch out for this next video that I'm going to share about the cycles coming up, the new Ascension timelines, and the sun cycle that we're in right now, that's going to peak in a couple years, because it's going to, there's a lot more, there's many more powerful events that are going to unfold on planet Earth. And one way that sometimes people deal with it when they are on a spiritual journey is just to bury their heads in the sand and say, oh, I'm just going to focus on, just manifesting more money. But there are people who become more engaged with what is happening on planet Earth, and they say, I see the truth now, and I want to make a better choices for myself and my family. And that's where we're at. We are at a pivotal time, okay? We're at a very, very pivotal time in human history. Some call it World War III. We're pretty close to it because, there's wars happening in different parts of planet Earth. Even though if you were in the Western world, you might not feel it. You might just be aware through the news, and that's fine. But for me, I'm no stranger to a war. Some of you know my background, my story. It's just been a part of my life, and it's just part of being on this planet because there's a lot of karma that's being worked through, and we are sort of in a dark age, so to speak. But at the same time, we're closely coming out of this dark age, and the way that we're going to speed up this process of coming out of the dark and bringing in more light is by becoming more engaged and seeing the truth more clearly, living it, and sharing that with the world. So I want to thank you, and I look forward to connecting with you again. And much peace and love.